Welcome to SheepConnect SA's 10-minute talk on remote water monitoring systems for pipe networks and troughs. I'm Bart Dessart, part of the SheepConnect SA team, and today our speaker is Shane Oster from Alpha Grid Consulting. Over to you, Shane.
Hello, thanks today for joining us for a quick talk about water meter monitoring, which we can either do with leak detection units on SA water meters, or we can do on pump systems with aftermarket systems. So for everyone in agriculture, connectivity is the next agricultural revolution. So we're using connectivity in so many aspects of business these days, whether it be monitoring water meters or connecting your tractor to the local mechanics. From our point of view, monitoring mains water points is an absolute no-brainer. The water that we're using from mains connections is extremely high quality. It's great water. And it's actually quite cost effective if you only pay for what you're using. Once you start pouring it out on the ground with leaks, it gets pretty expensive, and that's why having a constant connection to what's happening on your water meters is a really important part. And then that flows over to when you want to use your water for bore water, paying for power and ensuring that water security. The best and worst thing about mains water is that it just keeps on coming even if you've got a leak, whereas quite often with pumps they stop. So we'll sort of break it down into two sections: our standard leak detection units, which go onto our mains water meters, and then we've got pump or bore monitoring systems. The basis of the system, whether it's on mains water or bore, is our telemetry unit will have a Cat M1 or 4G modem on the back, which will connect to the internet on hourly basis, and that data is saved on the server, and then every morning at about 7 o'clock you'll get a text message, and that'll tell you two pieces of information which are critical for what we need. So it'll tell you the sum, which is here, it's telling us that we used 418 litres for a 24-hour period, and then it's telling us the minimum usage. So generally speaking, stock won't drink between midnight and 6 o'clock in the morning. So your minimum should get down to 0 litres per hour at some stage through the night. This is indicating that we have a 1 litre an hour leak on this system. So the daily text message is the cornerstone of the product. It not only gives us a critical piece of information that we need about our water usage, but it's also proof of life that the system that we've got is online and working well. It's no good sitting there thinking that things are all good when the reality is the unit went offline 2 weeks ago. So just to help people visualize what a leak looks like, this is one of the examples of where we've had a slow leak, which is built up from about 150 litres per hour. And then at this point, the split's got a bit larger in the pipe, and it's increased up to sort of 450 litres an hour, at which point it got through to the surface and the farmer was able to find the leak and fix it at this point, much to his relief. This is just a visualization of the same thing. You can see you have more dramatic daily usage spikes, but through the night you can see it just absolutely flatlines here, showing us that clearly we've got a leak in that system, and here is where the leak was repaired. So with SA water meters, essentially we have two styles of water meter. This is what we call an Elster style, and the pulse lead goes into the side here, and this is an Actaris or Itron meter, and we have a pulse lead that fits onto the top of here and reads off of this little needle. Neither of those systems stop the utilities from reading the water meters. They still can quite easily read the meters on a quarterly basis. The other system that we have quite a few of is pump monitoring. So one of the issues that people have with pumps is just knowing whether they're working. The water's cheap because it's bore water, of course, but from a water security point of view, they're a little bit riskier. There's more things that tend to go wrong with that. So we've got our telemetry unit on the outside here. We're monitoring flow here, and we're monitoring the pressure of the pump here. And we can set the system up so that as soon as the pressure drops below a preset threshold, for example, 20 PSI, we can be sent a text alert to know that the pump's gone offline if it's a pressure system, it usually will cut in at 30 psi and cut out at 60. So if it drops below that, we know that we've got an issue. With these systems, there's a heap of add-ons that we can put in. So we can add rain gauges on, we can add pressure sensors on, salinity sensors, weather stations, and soil moisture probes. So the system is very scalable and capable of handling a whole heap of other inputs besides the few basic ones that we use for pump monitoring. So this is a scenario where we're using electronic pressure gauges. So on this solar pump system, you can see we've got the pressure gauge plumbed in here. So given a normal scenario, the pump should be able to build up to a certain amount of pressure before it cuts out. If it can't achieve that pressure, it could either be because there's a leak in the pipeline, or in this one, maybe there's some damage to the valves or diaphragms, which stops it from achieving pressure. Down the bottom here, a lot of pipelines coming from the mains have extremely high pressure, and so a lot of farmers have pressure reducing valves so that they protect their pipelines from that pressure. So on this one, you can see we've added a pressure gauge here, and then each day on your text message, it'll report what the maximum pressure has been on the system. And if we've got the pressure reducing valve set at 60 psi, and we can see the maximum starts coming through at 100, 120 on a consistent basis, we know that we've got an issue with the pressure reducing valve, and it either needs to be serviced or replaced before it damages your pipeline and causes more leaks. So this is the electronic salinity meter circled over here. This is a great system for being able to monitor the water. Taking water samples in to get them tested is one of those things that we say that we'll do once or twice a year, but next thing you know, it's been 3 or 4 or 5 years before you've measured it. This way it reports your average salinity or maximum salinity, or however you want to report it, on a daily basis, and you can keep a close eye on the water quality and make sure that your stock are in tip-top health and not being affected by the silent killer. Over time, the systems that we've used have evolved. Most people are pretty happy to just receive their text message on a daily basis, but a lot of other people want to hop in and have a look at the graphs online. That was all historically through PCs, whereas now we can utilise a new app, which is working really well for us. We use a wildlife farm monitoring app, and you can log in and look at all your usage data in a range of different ways. We can view it on a map basis, we can view it as icons or as graphs, and we can select up here the filters to which inputs we want to look at, and here we can see how we want to view it. It's an extremely easy, user-friendly way to view your data, which typically most people will only do that when it appears that there's some unusual flow readings on their pump system. A standard leak detection unit would be under $1,500, and a pump system will be a bit more depending on the size flow meters and how it's spec'd. But that's leak detection unit and pump monitoring in a nutshell. If you've got any queries, contact SheepConnect or me, Shane Oster at Alpha Group Consulting. Thank you.
Thanks, Shane, for sharing your experience and expertise with us today.